Goliath at Massachusetts Six Flags, New England. This is by far one of the most notable fall from grace stories in roller coaster history. In California, it was highly acclaimed, but shortly after its relocation to New England, things went south. But how could such a promising coaster go from a highly acclaimed thrill ride to a total disaster? Let's find out today on Theme Park Crazy. For over 30 years, Dutch manufacturer Vekoma has been one of the major players in the roller coaster industry. First founded in 1926, the company got its start building farming equipment, before later manufacturing steel materials for the coal mining and petrochemical industries. In the 1970s, Vekoma was contracted by American ride manufacturer Aero Development to help bring their coasters to the European market. Vekoma would construct the steel structures for Aero's track and would later license the same track to manufacture on their own. Their first self-made model was the Boomerang. This compact looping shuttle coaster has a simple layout. A reverse lift would take the train up one track spike before releasing it downwards through two elements, a first-of-its-kind Cobra roll and a vertical loop. Afterwards, the train would ascend another spike before being sent backwards through the entire layout. The design was an instant success, with 4 of them opening in 1984 alone. By the end of the decade, 15 of these coasters had opened around the world. These included installations in 9 countries and 4 different continents. After numerous Boomerang installations in the 80s and 90s, Vekoma reinvented the concept as an inverted coaster in 1997. This new model, named the Invertigo, would feature the same track layout as the standard Boomerang, but with the trains hanging under the track. Originally, this concept was envisioned as a magnetic launch coaster, but the technology was too limited at the time, so a reverse chain lift was used instead. This model also saw some success, with 4 opening between 1997 and 1999. At the dawn of the new millennium, though, Vekoma introduced a direct successor to the Invertigo. This model was the Super Invertigo, aka the Giant Inverted Boomerang. Though it featured the same inversions, the model had several differences from the standard Invertigo. First off, the coaster was substantially larger, standing at almost 180 feet tall. Not only were the inversions larger, but the track spikes were completely vertical. This not only saved space, but it allowed the ride to start with a thrilling vertical drop straight down. A less notable difference was the shape of the layout. The Super Invertigo's track actually crosses over itself, with the vertical loop built directly above the boarding station. Overall, it was an extremely impressive upgrade that immediately made waves in the amusement industry. Soon after the model's announcement, Six Flags purchased not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Super Invertigo models. These would be installed at California's Six Flags Magic Mountain, Illinois' Six Flags Great America, Six Flags Over Georgia, and Spain's upcoming Warner Bros. Park Madrid, the latter of which was operated by Six Flags at the time. The 3 American installations were set to open in 2001, with each one being named Deja Vu. Later on, the one in Spain was scheduled to open with the park in 2002 under the name Stuntfall. Soon after their purchase, Six Flags began construction on these new coasters. However, not everything was smooth sailing. Embarrassingly enough, every single Super Invertigo model would have their openings delayed due to extended testing and maintenance. At one point, Six Flags Over Georgia's PR manager Marcy Tanner cited Vekoma's testing process as a reason for the delay. She added that the ride still had to be safety tested, saying, quote, "It takes as long as we need to feel comfortable opening the ride." One of the most prominent issues with the coaster was a design flaw with the restraints. It was discovered that riders could actually reach up and touch the track while seated. Six Flags responded to this issue by modifying the restraints, adding an extra bar on each side to prevent guests from raising their hands too high. Moreover, a height limit of 78 inches was imposed, and nobody taller than that was allowed to ride. During testing at Six Flags Over Georgia, the catch car used to lift the train up the tower derailed. This damaged the train beyond repair and forced the park to order another one. After months of testing, analyzing, welding, and testing again, Deja Vu would first open at Magic Mountain on August 25, 2001. Meanwhile, the one in Georgia wouldn't open until September 1st that year, with the one in Illinois opening on October 7th. Later on in 2002, Stuntfall faced a similar delay and wouldn't open until around 4 months after the park did. No matter where you rode it though, the experience was the same, and though it pretty much had the same layout as the Invertigo, this model was considered to be vastly superior. Upon opening at Magic Mountain, the ride was universally acclaimed by park guests. It was described as, quote, an unbelievable experience, incredibly freaky, and awesome, just awesome. Moreover, Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit said, quote, when you're going backwards, it's the best. The model's other installations received equal praise, with passengers lauding its intensity and surprisingly smooth track. Despite the positive reception though, all was not well with this model. Throughout its run at Magic Mountain, and the other American parks for that matter, the prototype model suffered from various technical difficulties. Oftentimes, the coaster would be closed down for maintenance, reportedly due to programming issues. Furthermore, testing revealed that the train could get stuck on the Cobra roll. Eventually, a stairway was added to this element for easy evacuations. And speaking of evacuations, the ride didn't have a manual quick-release system for the restraints. Instead, a battery pack was needed to unlock each one. So if the power went out or the ride got stuck, an evacuation would take a lot longer than it should have. These issues plagued each of the Deja Vu coasters. Meanwhile in Spain, despite Stuntfall's initial delay, it was said to be more reliable upon its opening. Since it opened a year after the Deja Vu coasters, this allowed for some more time to work out the design's kinks. As a result, this coaster is still operating at the park today. In the US though, the Super Invertigo model turned out to be an absolute maintenance nightmare. In addition, Six Flags CEO at the time Mark Shapiro reportedly wanted to focus less on thrill rides and try bringing in more families. So in 2007, Six Flags would announce the closure of Deja Vu at Great America and over Georgia. Great America's Deja Vu was replaced with a Buccaneer Battle water ride, while Six Flags Over Georgia's Deja Vu was replaced with a Thomas the Tank Engine themed area. Furthermore, Great America's was sold to Idaho's Silverwood Theme Park, where it continues to operate to this day as Aftershock. As for the one in Georgia, it was sold to Brazil's Mirabilandia, where it remains in storage as of now. Interestingly enough, Magic Mountain's Deja Vu continued to operate for a few more years after its American sister coasters were removed. But finally in 2011, Magic Mountain would announce the coaster's removal. It was revealed that the ride was being relocated to Six Flags New England in Agawam, Massachusetts. It had been almost a decade since the park had gotten a major coaster, but instead of spending millions of dollars on a brand new one, it was decided to import Deja Vu and rename it Goliath. At Magic Mountain, Deja Vu's last rides were given on October 6, 2011. Soon afterwards, it was packed up and shipped over to the East Coast. Many pointed out that the move was an odd decision, considering that Six Flags New England already had a standard boomerang coaster called Flashback. Even stranger, Deja Vu would be rebuilt right next to the old boomerang, replacing the Shipwreck Falls water ride in the process. It was as if the park was setting up Flashback for failure. As reconstruction was underway, a major change was planned for the ride's opening, a change that would forever alter the reception of this roller coaster. During its initial run, Six Flags noticed a problem with how the train was designed. The original trains featured staggered seating, which sat 2 guests per row in a V-shape. The rows alternated between inside seats where 2 guests would sit right next to each other, and outside seats where 2 guests were spaced apart on each end. This feature was intended to allow for better views in each row, but passengers were often confused by the layout when boarding. Each pair of seats had a different gait. The way it's supposed to work is this. First, the inside seat passengers head straight to their seats. In the next row, the first outside passenger must walk around the inside seats to get to their own. Then, the second passenger simply enters the ride and boards their own seat. This boarding procedure proved to be confusing for many guests. Sometimes, guests waiting in line would assume that the outside and inside seats were in the same row. This led to them accidentally cutting people in line. Plus, many guests didn't know they had to walk around the inside seats to get to the outside ones. Even worse, each seat had 2 seat belts, one that went across the lap and one that connected the restraint to the seat. This meant that it took longer for the ride operators to check the restraints. The confusion of the seating system, as well as the double seatbelt system, reportedly led to longer wait times and a hampered throughput. These issues led Six Flags to commission American manufacturer Premier Rides for a new train design. This train would replace the staggered seating with standard straightforward 4 per row seating. This is why half of the gates in Goliath Station were blocked off with metal bars, because they were originally used for the staggered seating. In addition, the new seat design only featured one seatbelt instead of the original two seatbelt system. Six Flags hoped that the new design would lead to less confusion, faster dispatches, faster wait times, and increased guest satisfaction. The new train design was planned to be used right away with the ride's reopening. However, fabrication delays forced Six Flags to stick with the old trains for the time being. On May 25, 2012, Goliath made its grand debut to the public with an opening ceremony. Park officials described the ride as a shining pillar of innovation and industry, as well as an extraordinary feat of engineering. Just like at Magic Mountain, reception to the attraction was immediately positive. Journalist George Delisle said of the ride, quote, "Goliath offers the rider with a great first drop, multiple inversions, lots of G-forces, and a very intense experience. All without putting any undue strain on my aging back, neck, or shoulders. Lots of thrills, but comfortable thrills." Unfortunately, this coaster wouldn't stay comfortable for long. Shortly after its installation, the new Premier Ride trains were finally completed, and it was all downhill from there. Almost immediately, these new trains were lambasted by the general public. The problem with the new trains was that they didn't run smoothly on the track. This led to an incredibly bumpy and uncomfortable ride experience that caused guests to bang their heads on the over-the-shoulder restraints. If you were wearing sunglasses, your ears would be knocked against them, and if you had earrings on, you were highly advised to remove them. It wasn't uncommon for guests to come off this ride with red ears and serious headaches. These roller coaster trains were considered by many to be among the worst ones in history. By contrast, Aftershock at Silverwood still uses the old Vekoma trains, and it's highly praised by parkgoers. As if the train situation weren't bad enough, the ride was even more of a maintenance nightmare than it was at Magic Mountain. An especially notable incident happened in July 2016, where a lift cable snapped. This shut down the ride for a while, and while it would later reopen, the coaster was clearly a problem for the park. Over the next few years, Goliath would regularly face downtime. Sometimes, it would be down for months. During such occasions, a sign was placed at the entrance that said, "Goliath is a first-of-its-kind attraction, and we continue to make enhancements to bring it to its optimal performance. Due to adjustments we are currently making, the ride will be unavailable for an extended time. We apologize for any inconvenience, and are working quickly to make this attraction available as soon as possible. When this occurs, we will provide an update at sixflags.com. With the ride constantly being closed, park guests were regularly irritated. By 2019, the park likely had enough of the coaster's problems, and it was pretty much destined for the chopping block. Officials were surely asking why they should bother keeping a ride that's hardly open, especially one that people say is too rough. Even before the pandemic, there were rumors of Six Flags removing this coaster. Many speculate that the park's pandemic-related closure in 2020 was simply delaying the inevitable. Sure enough, even after the park reopened, Goliath would remain standing but not operating for the entire 2021 season. Even more ominously, the coaster was removed from the park map at the start of the season. Interestingly enough, Six Flags never formally announced Goliath's closure. Instead, it was revealed on fan site SFNE Online that the ride was being demolished in January 2022. This coaster was literally discarded without any fanfare. Later on, the coaster was revealed to have been scrapped, reduced to nothing more than jagged blue and green pieces of metal. Nowadays, the ride's plot of land remains unused, serving as a reminder of what once was. Funnily enough, the standard boomerang it was built next to ended up outliving Goliath, and it still continues to operate today. Some park guests were glad to see it torn down because of how painful it was, but when you really look into it, it's pretty tragic how this ride fell from grace. In an effort to improve the guest experience with faster dispatches and an easier boarding process, Six Flags ended up killing the ride entirely. They took what was once a highly praised coaster in California and turned it into one of the worst roller coasters ever operating. By contrast, the remaining Super and Vertigo models are considered to be vastly superior. Some even consider the model to be one of Vekoma's best coasters. As for Goliath though, it will be forever known as one of the biggest failures in roller coaster history. Now it's time for the comment shoutout program. This is where I take 3 random comments from my past video and read them out. These comments are from my video on the worst roller coasters I've ever ridden. Silver Fairy 164 says, "So fun fact, Mind Eraser at Six Flags America was my first ever coaster with inversions. It's a wonder that I went on others. Yes, it is painful. Coaster Guy 97 says, "You take that back. Norm of the North is a national treasure." And Lord Marquardt says, "The worst coaster I've ever ridden was Mean Streak. I rode this coaster back in 2016 when I was 10 years old. The restraints gave me a headache as I was really short at the time, and I was not at all sad when it was removed. Maybe if I was a little taller, it would have been a better ride, but then again, I think my dad said he disliked it too. I know I used to hate Corkscrew, also at Cedar Point, for the same reason. Nowadays, I no longer think Corkscrew is a bad ride, as it's only really a bad ride if you're short." If you want to see your words in my next video, leave a comment down below and it may be selected. Please note though that inflammatory or spam comments will not be read. Thank you all so much, and if you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so once again at the link in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can check out my website at themeparkcrazy.com. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.